thing then. Now, if I can. I just don't understand why the school board internet.
Oh, that's it.
I mean, the school board of education or district's internet feed is so weak.
Because there's a bunch of people in here on their phone.
But I was in here early and there weren't that many people.
And it still was bad?
Extra batteries just in case, as my grandpa would say.
People watch that video right there? 10,000?
You know, I don't. Some of them probably watch 2 minutes.
Welcome everybody to our work session. Combined work session. Finally got to do that. I would like to welcome everybody to our combined work session and board meeting tonight. I would like to call this meeting to order and begin with a moment of silence. All right, the next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So all stand. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the approvals. First is the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move. Second.
Janice and Wayne. All those in favor of the approval of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next, do I have a motion concerning the approval of the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is the transport board, which we do not have anyone. So next on item is public comments. We will have a time slot of 30 minutes. Each person gets 3 minutes. Please state your name, speak into the microphone, and let us have it.
Jared Bigham with the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce. I came by to brag on your district a little bit. I had a meeting down the road, and it looks like I was gonna talk about something serious. But I do workforce development all across the state, and I just want you to know I highlight your LOOP program to districts wherever I go. It's very unique in the industry, relationships and connections and opportunities for kids. So I thought, well, I'm just down the road here. I'll stop by and brag to the board and applaud your leadership as a model for other districts in the state. So I've been to all 95 counties, and there's only one other model I know that's similar to this, and it's about this big in scale, and y'all's is about this big in scale. So you should be very proud as a board.
Thank you for that.
Good evening. My name is Jackie McKnight, and I'm just a concerned citizen. I'd like to talk about JCM. Now, I know we're going to start tonight. We're supposed to discuss some of the other schools of Pope, where to build Pope, and where to just Pope. Okay, just Pope. But I want y'all to do not forget about JCM. Remember, Liberty is overcrowded. We need to kind of pay attention to that school first before we start building other schools. So, just want to remind y'all of that.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Brent Lay, again, a concerned citizen, and I come before you, Mr. Chairman, honorable school board members, and I've contained my remarks writing here, and I'm going to read it where I stay within the time restraints. For 3 long years, Pope School has been overcrowded, and as of this morning, parents and grandparents are telling me that at least 40 to 50 more students are there than ever before. This is more overcrowding. We know that Pope and other schools, there's a correlation in the plunge and test scores, achievement scores over the last 8 years that correlates with overcrowding. Most teachers will tell you there's a vast difference between going to the 18 range to the 22 to 24 range in winning or losing for the entire year in terms of best student performance. Some teachers can do this very well, even with 30 or 35 students, but those type teachers are few and far between. Please, 90% of the capacity, most educators will tell you this, that 90% of the capacity of the school building is full. Anything over that is overcrowded. It's full in terms of school performance. Set policy, please, that no school shall exceed 90% capacity, and ask the superintendent and his staff to give you alternatives within 7 days. We have 2 more long years at best. If this is approved tonight or this next week or next month, we're still 2 years from moving into a new school. We have 4 schools, as you well know as a board, that are dangerously overcrowded. Please do not look the other way. Please quit trying to make do. I know you have made do the last 2 years, and I understand that, but it's time to make change for progress. Every instructional day counts. 1 bad year for a student, as you well know, as your child, 1 bad year can set them back for a lifetime in school. Secondly, you're going to hear from a company from Nashville in a few minutes as to the pros and the cons of the property of the new schools, and you're comparing two pieces of property. I just want you to also keep in mind two major factors that add to the equation in making your decision. First, the importance of Polk School, keeping Polk School online for future schools such as a Montessori school. Already people are saying they'd like to buy that property. It's on a corner, it's on an ideal corner. There's commercial interest, there's some interest from even private school people because it's still a good building. And they want to buy it though for a few $100,000, but in terms of taxpayers, I believe it's worth at least $15 million, for that's what another school costs. Doris Black has made a courageous stand to save taxpayers $30 million to hold on to Polk School for full use. And she's also stated, and I support her, is using the north building, the North Side High School, where there's 500 empty seats or 360 empty seats, and that saves taxpayers, as she's already said, another $15 million. Is that the 3-minute bell?
That is the 3-minute bell.
I'm sorry, I didn't get to cover all of it. Thank you very much for those remarks.
Good evening, I'm Letitia Henley Bales, and I'm a resident of Jackson, and I'm a grandmother to a little girl that goes to Thelma Barker. Thelma Barker is a wonderful school, fantastic staff, but I'm also a concerned citizen. It is my knowledge that $80,000 has been spent on the Ashport Road property to build the next school. Please do not waste $80,000. I understand that the Passmore property is the next thrown out, let's put it there. Don't throw away money. We can't afford to throw away money. We don't throw our personal money away. Let's don't throw the city's money away, the county's money, our children's money, our tax money. Please put that new school on Ashport Road like the plan has been. I don't know any of you personally, but I know every one of you do not throw your money away. You made a plan, and you need to stick to that plan. And I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings or step on your toes with what I feel, but our children are important, all of them, every color. I don't care where they come from, they all deserve a good school. You have put money into some land, don't change your mind. You made a good deal when you thought of it. $80,000, don't throw that away. Don't do it. If you move up the bypass and you go on that low-lying land, if you don't know where Passmore Lane is, I'm 57 years old. I'm telling you, that land, most of the time when it rains heavy, is standing in water. It's gonna take thousands and thousands of tons of dirt to fill in just to bring that land up to code. That dirt's not gonna be free. That land has not been vetted. I don't care how much money that somebody personally has paid a contract company, a survey company to come in here and say, we can do this, we can do that. You all have already spent $80,000 on good property. Ashport Road, it's not right next to Thelma Barker like a lot of parents have been misled. It's across the bypass. On that, I drove there. I saw it today because I didn't know. I made a call. I wanted to know where exactly on Ashport is this proposed school. And I was told, and I drove there. Please do not throw the money away. The money you're gonna throw into dirt, put it into JCM, put it into the schools that need it. Buy these teachers what they need, give these kids what they need. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Leanne.
Yeah, I was just gonna correct something. Just for the record, we spent $40,000 on the Asheville property to date.
Good evening, my name is Leanne Henderson. I spoke to the Long Range Planning Committee last week. As a result of that, I've had lots of parents reach out to me expressing that they also have a deep concern or care in a particular area, maybe like mine, maybe not. But I would like this opportunity to make sure that all the community knows, as well as the school board members know, that we are having a parent roundtable this Thursday, August 8th, at First United Methodist Church in Clayton Hall. It will be facilitated by Dr. Frank Anderson, who is the director for the Center for Racial Reconciliation at Union University. We're hoping that this will draw parents throughout the district to talk together, to come together, to express our opinions from different parts of the district, understand needs on other sides of the district, and come as a united front to approach the school system, support the school system, support our individual schools, and also petition the school board as a united front of parents. We're hoping that Dr. Anderson, with his background, we feel confident that he can help lead us through a productive conversation. So this is my cry out to the community and other parents who have opinions and voices that need to be heard. Even if you don't want to speak out in front of the camera, this is a time for you to talk to other parents and figure out how to collaborate, all for the sake of our students, the economic development of our county. Please, please come out this Thursday, August 8th, at First United Methodist Church at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out to the board that public notice will go out tomorrow concerning that meeting, and we have been invited, but not just to listen to the roundtable discussion. But public notice will go out for that tomorrow, just since it was brought up.
Just a clarification question to you.
Yes.
And do we can come, we can listen, but we will not be speaking.
We will not be speaking. That's correct.
Thank you.
I guess everybody already knows, I'm Sherry Franks, and I have spoke several times at your meetings. I sat at home today thinking, I'm tired, and I'm not going to talk. But then I thought, who else is gonna get up there and say what a majority of the parents in this district feel? I have 3 kids. I have one at Madison, I have one in a private school, and I have one at Oak. So I got the city somewhat covered. What concerns me the most is the disarray that the board communicates to each other in, communicates to the public in, and represents this community. As an elected group, you guys should be working together, communicating with the public, and none of us see that, and that is disheartening. It's hard to understand what you want to do with our Hope School or any other school when you guys can't even talk to each other. I sat in a meeting recently where a board member was called by another name twice by another board member. That is unacceptable. If you're on the board, at least know who your fellow teammates are. And did you hear the word teammate? I haven't seen anybody in here work as a team. We're working as 2 independent groups. We're not working together, so you can't work for us. And that's a problem. If you guys cannot work together, you can't work with Mr. Washington, you can't work for the school system, you can't work for the people, and that is a disservice. You were all elected, every one of you, to represent us, to stand up for us, to listen to us, to take calls, to take emails, to respond, even if they are not what you want to hear. I'm not saying that you have to take things that are hateful or belligerent, but when they are politely worded, you are expected to return those emails and texts. It's unexcusable. I came here to talk about Hope because they need a school. I hope that tonight you look at those 2 properties and you go, one, we've invested money in, One we have vetted, we understand what we're working with. The other one we have not. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comments?
Hello, I'm Robert Curlin. I was debating whether or not to get up tonight and talk, but I wanted to get up and remind the board of one thing. Back in October, and this also references our first commenter's comments, the subject came up in approving Dr. Jones's long-range plan, if there was something that could be done about JCM. The trade-off was, if you can find a way in the budget that we have right now to work on rebuilding JCM, we'll approve moving forward with your plan on Pope on Ashport Road. He stuck up to his end of the bargain. He lived up to it, and since February, 5 of you have been trying to go back on that deal. All but one approved his plan. There is a plan on the board. He had the approval to move forward with it. We had to invest $40,000 into that property because somebody was throwing out Passmore Lane. We need to move to Passmore Lane. We need to delay. We need to delay. We need to delay. Seems to be a common thread. I am standing up echoing what the rest of the people tonight are saying, except for one. We've already invested $40,000 in Ashport. You already gave your word in October in passing the 10-year plan that we would move forward with Ashport Lane and get the relief Pope needs. Unfortunately, we kicked that can down the road several more months. And instead of maybe looking at 18 months to relieve the overcrowding, we're looking at closer to a couple of years. I would ask you all to reconsider your stance on this and think about the message that you put forth to the public when you consistently, and I say consistently because it's happened monthly since November, when you consistently throw out ways to undo plans that you already approved. Stick with the plan, please. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comments? All right. Next item on the agenda, JMCEA President announcement for Mrs. Janice Carroll.
Good evening. It's the first day of school and I've lost my voice. So, I have set up an email group to where I can email all of you guys on the school board at one, click this distribution list. So I will be emailing you soon. JMCEA is just like the school board has their meetings a set day of the month. JMCEA has their building representative meetings on the 3rd Tuesday. Next week is the 2nd Tuesday. That's our executive board. The 3rd Tuesday is the AR meeting. AR stands for representative, or RA, Representative Assembly. AR means building rep, so I'm sorry. But if any of you are interested in coming to that meeting, I'll send you that in the email, and you're more than welcome to come by and stop in on that. So, thank you. Yeah. It will start at 4:30, and it's at the JMCA office. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. Carroll. Next item on the agenda is the financial report, Ms. Holly Keller.
Good evening. We have 13 budget amendments to present this month. I'll get right to them. Item number 1, $3,135. This is insurance recovery for payment of vehicle repairs. Item number 2, $588,200. It's special education funds are being moved among object codes in the special education functions to align the general ledger with the new state requirements. Item number 3, $4,700, coordinated school health grant. This amendment aligns the original fiscal year 20 estimated budget to the actual budget approved by the state. Item number 4, voluntary pre-K grant, $172,394. This amendment aligns the original estimated fiscal year 20 budget to the actual budget approved by the state, which does include an increase of funding to help with 2 classrooms. Item number 5, $140,171. It's a school safety grant. Again, this amendment aligns the GL to reflect carryover from fiscal year 19. The next group under federal programs are basically all amendments are aligning the general ledger to the state approved budgets. So I'm just gonna kind of summarize those. If you've got any questions, please feel free to interrupt. Item number 6, $3,440. This is the consolidated administration pool. Item number 7, $982,000, the district priority school improvement grant. Item number 8, $862,871. This is also the district priority school improvement grant. Item number 9, $232,000. This is the additional targeted support and improvement grant. Item number 10, $3,457, Title IX grant. Item number 11, $4,265, CTE Perkins Basic. And item number 12, $60,000, Perkins Reserve Grant. Do any of you have a question over that group of amendments? Okay. All right, we have the last one is the food service fund, fresh fruit and vegetables grant, $242,400. The district received fresh fruit vegetable grant for Arlington Lane, Lincoln, Alexander, and Andrew Jackson, which the funds are to be used to purchase, prepare, and distribute fresh fruits and vegetables to students at no charge to the student. Arlington Lane, Lincoln, Alexander, and Andrew Jackson Elementary.
Just want to remind all the board members, please speak in your microphone and ask your questions so we can make sure.
I'm sorry. I just take for granted that you can hear what we're saying right next to each other.
We all want to hear you.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, the July final BEP funding allocation came in at $51,536,000, which is $141,000 less than the April estimate, which was used for budget purposes. Overall, the BEP funding is a $1.6 million increase over last year, due to many reasons, one of which there was an increase in the BEP salary component, as well as changes to Madison County's fiscal capacity. Overall, ADMs were down by 147. The quarterly expenditure report by location and the quarterly utility report, both for the period ending June 30th, have been posted. The expenditure report includes all expenditures from general purpose, federal projects, food service, and education capital. The general purpose school expenditure report is also posted for you. You've received the same report for the last 2 years. It gives you a good comparison from year to year as to how the district is providing equitable funding for each school location from the operation of this budget. The general purpose monthly financial report for July shows that $3,371,000 of the fiscal year 20 budget has been expensed, which is in line with actual expenditures from the same time last year. Does anyone have any questions?
Childhood education state grant, year.
That's a 1-year grant. It's renewed annually.
Holly, this school expenditure report, first of all, it's a great report, thank you so much. Is the methodology the same for the last 2 or 3 years? These are apples to apples, right?
Right.
Okay. And Mr. Washington, it looks like that his early college high got the full enrollment, their cost per pupil is right in line with all the rest of it. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, the cost per pupil as it stands as far as what goes in the building, and then we have the additional costs, of course, of what Jackson State.
I understand that's in this.
Yeah, it's in it, but at the same time, that's what drives that, to that point, the Jackson State allocation.
I wanna make sure
But
I
it's in line
understand,
with
because
year over year, it's in line with year over year.
But even including that,
Right.
their cost per pupil are really in line with other high schools. Is that right? Am I reading that right?
Yes.
They have less overhead in other ways.
That's what?
They have less overhead in other
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
They don't have as much
No, I think it's a good
administrative staff.
thing. I
Yeah,
think it's a
as
good
much,
thing.
as much
Yeah.
administrative staff as other
Yeah,
schools.
I just wanted to make sure I was reading it right.
It's on, is the, Title I grant, is that a 1 year, or that's a year? Title I grant?
Title I, yes, Title I funds annually. However, we typically have carryover that comes through from unspent funds from the prior year. And you'll be seeing, several budget amendments once again, probably maybe starting next month, but most likely around October, that will be adding those fiscal year 19 carryover funds into the current year balances.
Anything else from Mrs. Scott? Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is the monthly financial statement for 41 general purpose schools. Mrs. Karen Bell.
We don't have anything this
Some
month.
this month, okay. Next item is action items. First item is the 2019-2020 disciplinary hearing authority, board. Mr. Corey Curry, are you going to speak to that? All right. Do I have a motion concerning, 19?
I have a question. Thank you, Mr. Curry.
I thought it was pretty simple.
No,
So
well,
I
it
didn't
is,
think
well,
you
we
would
had
have
a
any questions.
we had a conversation about this last month, and I think we made a decision as a board because of past history, and I think Ms. Hampton's policy committee kind of looked at the policy that allowed us to add community representatives. My question is just for me personally. I know everybody on this list. I know Pastor Benton. I do not know Bill Lindsay. Can you tell me how I might possibly know?
You may not.
Okay.
If you've been around here for a while, Bill Lindsay, I think, has been a car salesman here for some years.
Okay.
But he's a parent, former parent.
Former parent,
Had a
okay.
student graduate.
I just was curious what his connection is to our school and why.
He was a former parent,
Okay.
and he's a South Side native, and
Okay.
that was kind of some of the ideology behind the selection. He's a South native, and Mr. Benton is more middle. His church is in Eastern Jackson, and he lives in North.
Yeah.
So he was kind of a double.
And if you haven't met Pastor Benton, then you need to.
You do. He's a great guy.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
Any more questions?
More questions?
And for those who, I think everyone on the board recognizes and realizes that each year we have to designate that board for you all to approve. And it's a yearly board. They can be renewed each year, but the names have to come back before you all yearly.
I move that we accept this slate
I
of
second.
members.
Motion made by Mr. Arnold to accept, members of the board, seconded by Mrs. Stewart. Is there any discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor of the 2019-2020 PHA board, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, next item on the agenda is the Dell lease. Turn that over to Mr. Washington and Mr. Ashby Blair.
Yes, actually, feel free to comment if you like, but we're looking to enter into a 4-year lease with Dell equipment for devices to be used in school to accommodate, making sure the district is providing an equal and equitable level of computer support to all our schools. So it relates to testing requirements and other things that we have to do, and we can redistribute so that we make sure that every school has an equitable amount of devices. Actually, that's what we're looking forward to.
The lease essentially has two sections in there. One is the 24 carts that we looked at for testing purposes, and the other is for servers to run our back-end systems. The current setup is 4 years old, time to be moved out, and so we looked at a lease to replace that equipment as well.
And this would be similar to what you approved with Enterprise. Insurance has been notified. It does fall under our policy, so we don't incur any more premium for it. And I believe these are 4-year leases. Typically, by the time our computers get to the 4th year is when they kind of fizzle out. And so in the past, we purchased the equipment, and of course, when we do it hours forever, so we end up with a lot of devices, but not a lot of useful devices at the 5th and 6th year of their life. So we got to look to start turning it over and kind of change the game a little bit. So we just don't have equipment, but we have useful.
At the end of these leases, we basically give them back the equipment.
These are fair market value leases, yes, that's typically, they assess the remaining value, and we can reinvest that into the next lease, but yes, they will go back.
I see an expiration date is July 31st. I'm assuming that's been addressed.
Yes.
So Washington, there was some discussion about, students, I would say delivery of computers, but we talked about that, and there was some discussion that we were gonna get back.
Well, that's what tied into a lot of what we do, our student code of conduct that we talked about. So we're trying to make sure that we have equal justice and punishment for things that occur. And so we're tying that into our new student code of conduct as far as anything that's detrimental to property or anything else. Now we do with Dr. Williams on that, so that we can have a unilateral code of conduct where if north side punishes in one way, south side punishes in one way. And we just wanna make sure everybody's accountable for their actions. So Dr. Williams and I work through all of that, and we're gonna present you a comprehensive plan for many items. Yes, sir. Well, that is a concern of mine. It has damaged property. How do we hold students or teachers or whoever else accountable when they damage things repeatedly, not one time, but over and over?
Chairman Washington, I have a question. If you're looking at this technology finance proposal, is this a one-time cost for the equipment software?
Let me see what you got.
Like, and this is set not including tax?
So the 44,000 actually the equipment software cost?
That's for them to actually image the machines, get the carts ready, and they're basically going to deliver the carts ready to go.
So it's a one-time cost?
Yes.
Okay.
I do, because these are long-term capital leases that would commit the county to future funding. If the board approves these tonight, they would still need to go to the financial management committee tomorrow and then before the commission before we can enter into a contract.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure I understand the numbers. I see a total here of 584,888, and then 147,910. Is the 147, is that the annual lease payment?
Yes.
Okay.
The
And
584
the college said 48 payments, I want to make sure we.
It's annual, yes.
Okay.
If you broke it down monthly.
Well, that's what I thought, but I
48.
didn't understand the 48 payments there, okay. So the motion to approve would be contingent on county commission approval?
It's beyond 1 year, so they have to approve it also.
I'll make that motion.
Second been made, second by Mr. Arnold. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is the Liberty Technology Magnet High request for desktops.
Well, along with the lease, then, once again, I said we can redistribute some assets to help take care of what Liberty wants also. So, it's just go tied together.
So there's nothing we can do?
No, it's nothing you can do.
Because I thought this was under.
Yeah, we're working to reallocate assets through the lease program, then we can reallocate assets to places that need them.
They're together.
So these desktops are in addition to what?
No, so when we provide laptop carts in some places, they have some desktops that we can then reallocate to Liberty. Because often we have in elementary schools, carts are the most efficient way to travel to class to class. And so with that, we'll be able to reallocate some resources.
Next item on the agenda, under action items, is Community Montessori School request for a fence.
Do we have to vote on that, on the Liberty?
Oh.
Okay, because it was under action items, in my mind, we take action on action items.
But they were together, that's what.
Okay,
they-
I just
they were
want-
actually
okay,
connected
okay.
together. That's why I was.
I connected them together
Right.
because the plan is to redistribute assets.
Sure, okay, I'm just trying to follow procedure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, the next item on the action items is Community Montessori School request for a fence. Mr. Washington.
Yeah, once again, Montessori School, through the PTO, has raised money to fence up part of the area. Nothing required to have a quote here, from the fence company. It just matters any, modification made to a campus, the board has to approve.
I move that we accept.
I had a question.
Well, we can discuss that after the motion.
Okay.
So motion
Yeah.
made by
Motion
Arnold to
made to
approve.
approve.
Do I have a second?
Sorry.
Second by Mr. Massey. All right, is there any discussion?
There is, yes,
All
sir,
right.
thank you. As a parent at Community Montessori in a school that is literally in my backyard and in smack dab in the middle of District 5, I just needed somebody to explain to me the diagram, like when I look at this, Superintendent Washington, where is Westwood Avenue?
Westwood Avenue, of course, is the avenue that, Montessori faces.
Yes. So is where this says, which side is the fence on?
So it says, Berkshire fence, Westwood, let me make sure, because this is.
So if I'm
this
looking
is
at the
interesting.
diagram.
Okay, it's an interesting.
So this is Westwood Avenue.
Right. The front of it is Westwood.
Okay, I
You have
can't
the
read
playground area where they come out the doors, to
Yes.
the playground for the
Yes.
library.
Yes.
That's the area that needs to be fenced, so
Okay.
that you have, no one has access to leave that area or enter that area.
Sure.
While the students are out for recess.
And I will say, as a parent, I have spent time at that school and on that playground, and that is very difficult if you are with a kindergarten class. They want to run onto Westwood Avenue, so.
Even though there's some distance there, it
Yeah.
still is the most
Yes.
safe thing to have.
Sure, I like this. I just couldn't read the handwriting. Thank you.
Any more discussion? We ready to vote?
There's two different quotes.
I think there's 3 or 4.
Well, you have link chain, treated wood, and picking.
But this is not costing us any money, the
No, the
PTO
PTO is paying
is.
for it.
The only
Yes.
reason we have to approve it is because they're making a change to the physical building.
Yes. I agree.
Whatever's done will have to be approved by the planning commission anyway. For the city,
Oh, okay.
in that district.
So it's, how many different quotes?
3. Yeah, one company gave 3 versions, link chain, picket, and treated wood.
But I think the one that was on our page 2 from Quality Fence, is that correct? Is the
Yes.
quote that the PTO has chosen? Yeah.
Mr. Washington, I guess just to be blunt, why does the PTO have to pay for these? I'm thinking of another school in our system that may not have a strong PTO like the community that needs this. This is student safety, it's a priority of mine, and I know the rest of the board. And it's really a nominal amount. I appreciate them doing that, community Montessori PTO, but why would they have to do that?
It's not why, if they chose to, so what happens every year, principals submit requests for upgrades and modifications, and we work through those with every school. This was not submitted, this was a PTO taking on project, so if they had submitted this, then it would fall apart with all the things that we're doing for other schools, like signs, playground equipment, all those type of things.
So I'm assuming they got some stuff.
Mr. Massey,
They
just
get their share.
Yeah. Just to give a little history, I know this because I am a member of the Community Montessori PTO because 3 of my 4 children attend that school. The playground equipment that's currently on the grounds of the school, the PTO also purchased. And when the school moved from Bemis to the Westwood Avenue campus and it became Community Montessori, the PTO broke down the playground equipment along with some school system employees, put it in the back of a truck and drove it over to the Westwood Avenue campus, and we all put it back together again. So the playground equipment that is currently there, along with some upgrades that were made when that school moved to the Westwood campus, were purchased by the PTO. That school, because we were moving from that Bemis campus, we had put the playground equipment there when our school was relocated from Parkview to Bemis. And then again, since it belonged to the PTO moved it to the Westwood campus, belongs to this PTO. Just a little history.
The question is equity in providing equity. We have to look across all the schools and prioritize what we do for each school. And that's why sometimes you may take a little longer to do a completed project at a school because we have to prioritize all schools and think of all the things.
Sure. So we have a motion and a second on
Yeah,
the
we're
floor,
ready
if
to-
I'm not
we're ready to
mistaken.
vote, aren't we? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is committee reports. Any necessary action, long range planning committee, Mr. Merriweather.
Yes, sir. We met on July the 23rd, and the two items that was on the agenda was to consider the option of property at the north, K8. And, we also had on the agenda to discuss objectives and recommendation to be added to the 10-year plan. That's when we was told by Mr. Washington that, we had until March. So my understanding is that it's a new plan to look at some options and recommendations to add to those plans, but we have time to do that. Then on the 30th, Dr. Lay came in, he met with us on the 23rd, and some of that discussion was on middle school when he returned on July 30th. And at that time, he was talking about the conversion of middle schools to K8. And it's at that time that we decided that we would study it as well as Mr. Washington was going to look at the proposal and have some input in that as well. We said 30 days, but 30 days is not going to be enough time to really do justice to that. So I would hope that the committee would reconsider 30 to 60 days so we have ample time to study as well as skip Mr. Washington, and he would have time to meet with his staff. Then, of course, the last thing that was discussed was the overcrowding. All we wanted to discuss was the overcrowding at the district in Liberty. It was at that time that Mr. Washington requested that he and his staff have ample time to study that. He wanted to get Dr. Williams, and the entire staff to discuss that. The committee agreed to that. We concluded by Ms. Leanne Henderson having 3 minutes to talk about what was going on with the Pope situation. And so that concluded all the things that we covered. So we don't have any action items for action.
Yes. Yeah, we discussed the strategic plan, board member there, you said, 10-year plan,
Strategic plan, I'm sorry.
Strategic plan, we can extend out to March if you want to update.
That's good, and I appreciate that correction. It was, I got it wrong.
Thank you. I was like, I didn't remember us
Yeah.
talking about the 10-year plan.
The 5-year strategic plan.
And then we turn it to the state.
Thank you, sir.
Every other year.
Sharon was all that, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
I'd like a little more detail on what we're asking Mr. Washington to do. To me, what I heard at the long-range planning was a major revision of the 10-year plan that we've approved. And I'm concerned that we're gonna detract from his and his team's ability to execute the plan that we have approved. So I'd like to know what's the expectation. That's a pretty major task to totally revise what we've approved. So I wanna know what's involved in that, to make sure we're not shooting ourselves in the foot with the plan that we have approved. So what are your thoughts? What are you gonna be doing in terms of looking at this plan? Or
what I'm doing.
This is a totally different, let's be honest, this is a totally different concept from what we've approved. And so.
What I committed to do at that point, I just committed to listen.
Yeah.
And I responded, based on listening and gathering information.
Yeah.
Mr. Merriweather had presented Mr. Lay, and he presented to us. And at that point, he asked me some questions, I responded to him. In my mind, I'm proceeding with what we've approved. That's what I'm doing. All right. But if the board deems me to do something different, of course, I'll adjust and react. But in my head, I'm proceeding with the current plan that we have to enact it and to fulfill it as best as we can with the resources that we have. That's what I'm doing.
So, Mr. Chairman, my concern is this, and I looked through the plan, or concept, I guess, that was presented. You know, to vet that, you would have to do numbers of what it costs to convert to K-8s, what the operational cost would be. I think there's a plan in there to convert Owen Arena to classrooms. I just don't know what to give a credible look at that. To me, it takes a major effort, and that's my concern.
And I have similar concerns to you, Mr. Campbell, but I have another concern that actually, since we're in a work session, I can actually say this. I don't serve on the Long Range Planning Committee. I've attended those meetings. My concern is that a private citizen brought the Long Range Planning Committee a plan, a private citizen who, yeah, he has some experience working in juvenile court 30 years ago. He's not a teacher. He's not an administrator. I would like to know the last time he walked down the hallway of one of our schools. What's to stop anybody, all these folks that spoke tonight? I see several folks who don't even have children in public school out here. What's to stop them from saying, well, you know what, I think I'm gonna sit at my kitchen table tonight and come up with a plan and I'm gonna present it to the Long Range Planning Committee? What's to stop them from doing that? We voted on a 10-year plan. I think it was the second month that I sat at this table. We weren't actually at this table because we were at City Hall. And we voted on a 10-year plan. And every single one of us around this table voted on that plan. That's the plan. And Mr. Washington, I applaud you for stating that in your mind, we're proceeding with the plan as follows. I feel like that, I can come up with a plan. I can pontificate. I have a mother who is a retired school superintendent. Maybe I could ask her if she wants to come spend the weekend up here and come up with her own plan. Y'all sure don't want her to speak to y'all. You think I'm harsh? Y'all would not even be able to handle her. But my concern is that we can just let anybody who wants to come up with their own plan and address us as a board. That is my concern.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I have one other concern while we're talking about this. The consideration for this thing, we've afforded a platform, in my opinion, for the last 2 weeks, to really denigrate and trash this system.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The thing that's disappointing about that, none of us are satisfied with where we are.
Thank you.
Nobody sitting here is, nobody sitting over there in the parents. But to deny the progress we've made in the last 2 years, to me, is inexcusable. And gratuitous, comments like, the teachers are working hard. But the focus, the whole narrative has been on what a terrible job we're doing. Again, we know we've got a long way to go. But the progress we've made in 2 years is beyond anything I would ever thought possible. I've been watching this and involved in this for almost 8 years. I would have never thought what we've done in the last 2 years was possible. We've got community support behind us like I've never seen before. And I don't want that to erode in this area. So my concern is that I would just like, Mr. Chairman, to hear from the board, do we really want to charge the superintendent with vetting this brand new concept, which is a major revision, and everything this board, you're right, on an 8-to-1 vote approved just 9 months ago. We just approved it 9 months ago. We just approved 2 months ago, and I think you executed a contract. We're underway on design of 2 buildings. I appreciate the comments about hope we're not forgetting JCN. We're not. That's underway. We've authorized expenditure of up to $2.2 million. That process is going. And to say now we want to vet a new concept or an open arena in the classrooms and not doing those, I think it's just confusing and it sends a message. We're not really confident in what we're doing. And so I'm just asking that before we charge the superintendent with spending any time vetting that, if we all think about that and vote, if that's what 5 members want to do, then obviously that's what we'll do. I'm concerned we've given this thing more attention than it deserves, and it's been for the detriment of what we're trying to do here. And it will be for the detriment of what we're trying to do. It distracts his efforts and the team's efforts to implement what we're doing. Now, thank you for not hanging up.
Mr. Chairman, in reference to, Dr. Lee coming before the Long Range Plan Committee, he had requested that in 2 weeks there was no behind the scenes, $5 demand. Mr. Lee asked, Dr. Lee asked to come forward, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Black, very much aware was coming in, there was no kickback. The fact that, it got into, the pre-K and some more things, we had no idea. I asked him, before you can speak, tell me everything you're going to say. I was not going to micromanage his message. Since we've had that message, there are some good things in the plan, and I've told Dr. Lee, there's some things that I go along with, there's some things that I don't, as one member of the committee. But we as a community, if we continue to be, this group is on this, and we clap when we do this, and we clap when I say this, or clap when a board member, we're not getting anywhere. Now, I have not said how bad the system is in. The teachers, administrators, previous board, the superintendent has done their best. We must appreciate where we come from and how far we got to go. And until we begin to put aside that I make a speech and then crowd clap on this and then others don't, we're not getting anywhere. We owe it to the community to be firm. I have said again. I've said again and again, the only agenda is for all of the children. But when we cross the line and come over the hard way and over to East Jackson, there's some equity that must be done to do this thing. And so we must be fair. So when someone said, sit at the kitchen table and come up with an idea, as long as I serve on the Long Range Planning Committee, and you come up with a plan that may move the system forward, whether you do or not, I'm gonna give you the chance. The bylaws does not, and the chairman of the bylaws committee is here. It does not dictate who we can speak to and who we can't speak to. The last point of this, and I'm finished. When we talk about the time that is gonna be spent for Mr. Washington and his staff to study that, or to look at anything that the board or the committee requests, I have never said to Dr. Jones, Mr. Washington, or any other superintendent, take as much time as you need. When he asked us, could I have time to give with my staff, I immediately said, am I correct? Yes, I did not try to force it on you. So we have time. It's too important for us to not have time to look at everything that may be good for the system. And if it's a parent that's sitting at the kitchen table, come up with a plan that may help our children, our community, as long as I'm on the Long Range Planning Committee, I want to hear it. Now, Ms. Stars and Mr. Johnson said, Mr. Merrill, we don't want to hear it. We are saying that we're not gonna hear it. But if those two individuals say we want to hear it, it's not important what the community thinks, it's not important what the rest of the board thinks. It's what's important that that committee think it wants to do for the good of the community.
Mr. Merriweather, may I ask you a clarifying question about that? So that means, if I understood you correctly, anybody, we got the media here, we have county commissioners here, we have city leaders here, we have parents, anybody can bring your committee a plan that they think.
Yes.
Okay, that scares me to death.
Mr. Chairman.
Why? My thing is that, and I'm saying publicly.
Because we had a man who wasted an hour and a half of our time over the last 2 weeks, actually a little bit longer than that, presenting a plan that hadn't been vetted, that gave us false research that was old and outdated.
Mr. Chairman, this is my last remark. That is her opinion, I respect it.
But
I'm asking you.
I didn't say it wasn't my opinion.
I'm saying we need to learn to respect everybody's opinion. Ms. Black is here, Mr. Johnson is here. I'm just the chairman, and I have one vote. I will never invite anyone, allow anyone to speak before the Long Range Plan. Unless Ms. Stars Black, Mr. Johnson approves of it, they don't, they won't. But if a parent comes in and sends a proposal, Ms. Stars Black, Mr. Johnson wants to hear it, It's for the good of the community. We gonna hear.
Before we
Mr. Chairman.
move on, just, hold on. My head's
Good.
Look. First of all, we need to be respectful of others when they speak. I'm the chairman, I'm a pretty fair guy. I don't like being ornery with anybody, but when somebody's speaking, please don't interrupt them. I mean, that's just a considerate thing to do. And actually, the chairman's supposed to recognize you before you speak. So from here on out, let's please start doing that, because it just gets out of hand. And I want everybody to be heard, don't get me wrong, but I just want to do it in a fair and respectful way. So that being said, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you. First of all, I have 2 points to address. The first one is the fact that nobody denigrated this system, talked about how bad this system was. We used junk websites to talk about how horrible we were. We used facts that aren't facts. This is as much fiction as anything, and you know that. The second thing is, part of that long-range planning committee, item number 4 in the policy establishing that says that any board member at that time has the opportunity to express any opinion that they may have. The board members present those 2 days weren't allowed an opportunity to speak. That's it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
I
Mrs. Black.
think it's different. The first time, there were lots of conversations going on, but I just wanted to make that clear. But to allow anyone to come in, I'm beginning to believe that we may be opening up a can of worms. But when Mr. Merriweather asked us, Mr. Johnson and I, about Mr. Lay, we were thinking, this is a citizen, let him come. Now, to approve it or disapprove it, that is up to the board. So I don't know why you guys are all in arms. Oh, you said that you wasted your time, Shannon. Well, you know, if you felt you were wasting your time, you should have left, because you didn't have to be there. If I felt that I was wasting my time, I couldn't, because that is my committee. But, so to get upset over something, as you guys, the whole community, as a matter of fact, get upset over things that can be voted either up or down. You're accusing people of doing things and being in groups and the whole bit. All of those things are false. And some of the board members are, I said it once before, fanning the flames, which are all false. We've been saying, let's get together so we can iron this out. Because it doesn't make any sense for us not to be able to talk it out respectfully and squash some of this mess that the community is thinking, but no one seems to have the time to do that. So, you know, until we do that, all of this mess is still going to be mess.
Chairman, I'm on the planning meeting. I don't remember in that meeting asking Mr. Washington if there any long-range plans. The only thing we voted on concerning behavior issue was the check.
That's
So
what I read.
I don't know where the other stuff came from, so I must have been asleep or something.
Me too, thank you.
Excuse me, that's a good point. I was just, when Mr. Merriweather gave this report, he said next steps were that Mr. Washington was going to spend 60 days vetting. That's fine.
Okay.
So look, if I may, with all respect to Mr. Merriweather, that is his committee. If I think it's wonderful if he wants to entertain motions and different ideas. I feel like though, before we task the superintendent and his team to start vetting those, that would take a full board approval. That's all I'm saying. I think it's a great idea for Mr. Merriweather and his committee to listen to all ideas. I think that's wonderful.
But it would have to come before the board, for the board to vote.
Before we task the superintendent and his team to start vetting something, to me, that requires a full board approval.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, then based upon that, the committee was going to study it, Mr. Washington was gonna come back if it's necessary, in order for us to vote on it. I mean, we should vote on it. We need to do that because we got the clock running. And, then that way it leaves Mr. Washington and them over, leaves the committee and them over. If we're gonna vote as a board, we're here, let's vote it, get it over.
And we can't do that because it wasn't on our agenda to vote on that, and it didn't come from, Mr. Alexander, may I please have the floor, I'm sorry.
But it
Thank
didn't
you.
come as a recommendation from the committee.
No, but we can't vote on something that's not on our agenda. Is that correct?
Right, I mean,
There are ways we can't.
a committee can make a recommendation,
Yes,
but
but-
they have to have voted on that.
Yes, so
as a
that,
committee.
so
So
that
that
needs.
has not taken place.
And we
Yes.
have not voted on anything as
No.
a committee.
No,
And
so
so
that would
that's why
have
I'm
to
saying,
come-
why get upset over stuff that hasn't taken
Because
place?
Mr. Meriwether presented it in his report about those two committee meetings that you've had since we met last as a board. And he said, he had given the superintendent, at first he said 30 days, but then he said 60 days. But technically, your committee cannot task the superintendent with doing anything until it is approved by all 9 of us.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, it's making it appear that I tasked Mr. Washington. Mr. Washington can speak for himself. Mr. Washington was sitting next to me and said to the committee, Mr. Meriwether, we would like to have time for I and my staff, and I said, yes. Am I correct, Mr. Washington? At no time did we task him, Mr. Washington, as he said 30 days. I came back today and says, Mr. Washington, we just started school, I'm saying this in short. We need more time, and Mr. Washington said he need 120 days, we're gonna do it. No one is overtasking the staff, I understand that they're busy. So we're just creating problems.
No. I think we have a misunderstanding. Legally, Mr. Washington cannot do anything that we give him permission to do. Like, we have to say, Mr. Washington, we want you to research, you and your staff to research this plan. Is that correct?
What I took from the long-range planning committee, and Mr. Meriwether and I discussed, was that he would give me time to get the information, all right? Not to really do anything, listen to it, read it, I have, and that's it.
That's it.
I'm not gonna take any other action unless, what I just said, the board directs me to.
Okay.
I'm continuing to work the plan that we have until the board directs me otherwise.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
I listened to it.
I
Read
understand
it.
now.
That's it. If it comes up, I can talk about it, but I'm not putting energy, the only energy I'm putting into is our current plan. That's where my energy is, that's where our staff energy is, that's our directive. If someone asks me a question, I'll respond. If they have a public request for public information, we'll get it to them, but that's it, all right? And there's a limit to that, how many times you can request information. There's a limit to that also, right? So I am working towards the plan that we have every day. Every day.
Mrs. Hampton.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to speak to this, there is nothing in policy that states that Mr. Lay or anybody else could not come and speak towards a particular plan that they have. But in the past, this is what has happened. They have come and made an appointment with the superintendent and presented the plan to the superintendent. And the superintendent, during the work session or the board meeting, would basically say, Mr. Lay has a particular plan that he would like to present to the board, which may be of interest to the whole district in order to help move it forward, okay? So, with that being stated, I just think that some things may have gotten, I ain't gonna say out of hand, it's left up to the long-range planning committee as to how they would have it, but normally, a citizen or whoever, if there's a big plan that we know that's gonna change the dynamics of this district, they will go to the superintendent. Superintendent then will refer it to the long-range planning committee. The long-range planning committee would allow, Mr. Lay to come and speak towards that particular plan. During the work session, then his whole, particular plan will be presented to the entire board, okay? And how it follows that would be in the hand of our superintendent. So it's not a wrong thing that Mr. Lay did what he did, every citizen, you know, we have to honor basically, a particular plan if they have it in place, that they want us to listen to. You know, this is just only right. And so, as we move forward with this, now that we know that there are interests in this community, Mr. Lay may not be the only one that may come forward. There may be someone else. Please address it to the superintendent. Make an appointment with the superintendent to address that particular plan. And the superintendent would get with the Long Range Planning Committee and let them move forward with it, at which time the Long Range Planning Committee will present it to the whole board, and then it'll go back into the hands of the superintendent as to how handle the process with Mr. Lay or any other citizen speaking to what they have to share with our district.
Ms. Hampton, I'm glad you explained that, because now I'm realizing my frustration is because things got out of order. Usually when things come through our committees, like the technology committee or the insurance committee or the policy committee, they're brought to the superintendent's attention, whether it be by his staff or by, you know, maybe somebody who wanted to sell us a lease, like the leases we voted on earlier. They come through our committees, but only after they've come through the superintendent. So maybe that's why my frustration was, is that I sat through a committee meeting while someone was presenting something that had not already been run through the superintendent and had his, I'm not gonna say blessing, but it had already kind of come through him, and he said, hey, it needs to go to this committee. So I guess my frustration was, is it seemed a little out of order to me, especially since we already have a plan in place that is working and has been working. And so I guess maybe I was frustrated when I spoke earlier. But, so the way you just explained it explains why I was frustrated. Probably because we did it backwards. It should have come to the superintendent first, and then he should have sent it to the proper committee. So thank you for explaining it that way.
Mr. Chairman, Madam President, you're saying that's policy?
That's not policy. I said, in the way that had been done in the past, if any citizen would like to speak towards a particular plan that we know that may change the dynamics of our district, then it should go to the superintendent first, okay? And the superintendent and that particular citizen could talk concerning that particular plan, okay? And if the plan is of interest, or if the citizen even demand that they would like to have that spoken to, then it's left in the hands of the superintendent to forward it to the Long Range Planning Committee. And, you know, they have, you know, the right to allow, you know, citizens or anyone else to come.
Mr. Arnold also reminded us that
Yes.
the policy states at the Long Range Planning Committee, any board members who are present also have the right to speak to
Yes.
things that are being discussed.
They have to address themselves.
Yes.
They allowed me to speak on the 23rd, I believe, because I said, Mr. Chairman, you know, may I speak? And he said, yes, you may speak. And then I gave comment to what, Mr. Brindley statements and plan, you know, was regarding, because basically what he was stating, you know, that plan was part of Vision 2020. But now that the plans with Vision 2020, you know, it has been somewhat changed, you know, I had asked some questions, and I asked him to bring projections as financial costs, you know, and other things back, you know, to inform the board how much, you know, this would cost. And he stated that he would look into it. And so, yeah, they did allow me to speak, but I had to address the chairman in order to make my views known.
Mr. Chairman, that's remark on that. There was so much out of order and people talking, not being respectful. This happened to Mr. GT, and I have no regret. Chairman of Long Range Planning, how we handled that meeting. But I like what I hear from Board Member Hampton, that in the future, we would go, just like she said, through the superintendent recommendation to us. But hindsight, looking back, no regret, glad we listened to them, and as long as people appear before the long-range planning, county commissioners, or whoever, and they recognize the charity, give permission. We didn't say all of this stuff was Vision 2020, closing all of those schools. And no one is saying anything. The lady said about $40,000. What about all of those schools? Right now, Lisa's is running error right now as we speak. And we'll turn on, and the heat's gonna flip over. All of those schools that are closed down by the previous board, we are paying megabucks. No one said anything that, so I don't want to address the podium and say, let's save money on these buildings that we close. So it's enough blame to go around, but if we could keep, the need needs to go on. But pointing your fingers and blaming everybody is not getting anything. If we got children that's sitting here listening, watching the ducks, young lady there, gentleman back there, young lady back there, they listen to us. What's embarrassing is not the long-range planning committee. What's embarrassing is the judge behaving like this to the public.
Mr. Chairman, may I just say one thing? I'd just like for us, as a board, to get clarification on things. I mean, anything that comes up, because it seems to me we get wind of one something or half of something, and we go off half-cocked, and it's always a big problem. We need to be able to as adults, discuss it, ask questions, find out, are you right? And then we can make a decision on that. So I'm just asking us as a board to please, let's do that. And stop going off half-cocked and telling community members things, and then they just go crazy with things. So we, as a board, please, ask the questions, get the facts, and then we'll proceed.
All right, we're ready to move on to the budget committee report, please. Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, our committee met on August 1st. Probably covered most of the financial figures. I wanted to highlight a couple of things you mentioned. One was the $982,000 additional improvement grant that we received that will be used at JCT, Lincoln, Isaac Lane, and Orange. In addition to that, we received another grant of $232,000 that will be used for target schools, and those schools are Liberty, North Parkway, Middle School, West Phoenix, and then New Jackson. The second thing I want to mention is on our agenda, we had Mr. Washington address some upcoming projects that align with material plan, and a couple of those that we're looking at, Mr. Washington may address those later, is Workforce Development Center, roofs at Alexander and Nova, and Liberty also, and lockers at West Phoenix and KCT.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. Lockers at West Phoenix and JCT, when those schools were converted from elementary to middle schools, they didn't have adequate locker rooms for physical education and athletics. So we need to look at adding those. The roof at Liberty at this point, if we catch it now, it'd be far less costly than we anyway. And the same goes for Nova. We're trying to catch these things early on. Alexander would get a re-roof and HVAC system, similar to what happened in East Elementary this past summer. They're in a little bit worse shape. Like older schools still using a boiler and the chiller method. The heat and cool the school. We need to upgrade that. So those are some things that we're trying to look at to do this coming budget year to continue to upgrade our schools. Workforce Development Center, we have some plans that we're looking at, a couple versions of it, in order that we can bring some of the different things that we have in individual schools so that each high school enjoy, such as the healthcare program that's very successful at Southside High School, but it's only at Southside High School. Advanced manufacturing is only in Liberty. We need a place where we can centralize some of these things and then enhance them so that more students can use them, participate in them, and reap the benefits from them. So that's what the Workforce Development Center is all about. Trying to get more students involved with different technical trades and things of that nature that can benefit from them and interest them versus just being at individual schools.
That's my report, Mr. Chairman, unless you want to have questions.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Johnson? Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is the policy committee meeting. Well, I guess Mrs. Hampton, you will know for everybody that you think.
We will have a policy, retreat on August the 16th at 3:00 here in the board room. If any board member or any staff member or any citizen would like to speak to a particular policy at this particular time, then you are free to come and address the committee concerning the policy. We will have our board attorney, Dale Thomas, he will be present, at which time he will help to clarify or speak to anything concerning any concerns towards any policy that we may have here. Just for, concerning the issue with the long-range planning, if there are something that you want to implement concerning how we should handle people being, addressed if they want to present something to the board or to the committee, that can also be addressed. Dale Thomas will be there to answer questions and just lead us into how we can properly, set up a policy or maybe a procedure, as to how that needs to be followed, okay?
Ms. Hampton, how long, is the retreat? Are we only doing, Friday night, or are we going to do Friday and Saturday?
Just that Friday.
Friday night, okay.
The majority of the policies, and the reason for the retreat is because we have been behind several policies being updated or either out of date. And so we have used so many days and coming during the policy committee trying to catch up on these particular policies. So I suggested a retreat and just to get everything done, either caught up as much as we can during this particular time. And so it's open as it relates to any particular policy. If you have any concerns, please come so we can address it to the best of our ability.
All right, any questions for Mrs. Hampton? All right, next item on the agenda is item number 12, superintendent report.
Okay, first day of school, as far as I know, all went well. We did have, 2 students who had, some incidents of illness that had to be taken from school, but I don't think any of them were major. I was able to visit 17 schools today, so I'll be up to the other 6 tomorrow. We mentioned projects for next year. The ones that we're closing out this year are, the roof at, Unity Montessori, roof at Parkview Learning Center, the roof HVAC and drainage issues at East. That's near complete. All 3 of those are near complete, not 100% complete. We did have the Lincoln renovation and enhancement. It's complete for now, but that's still ongoing, and that was a successful grand opening. Many of you attended last Friday, real part of that facility. We redid the floor at Denmark, North Parkway. We faced some erosion that was going through the parking lots. And we have the stadiums at North Side and South Side. We're about 80% complete. The bleachers are going up at South Side, and the building is being finished out. And when they finish the bleachers at South Side, they go to North Side. And so we're hoping that all those finish in time. Right around August 23rd is the tentative completion date for all of that, before home football games begin. So it seems to be on schedule. Weather permitting, that's outdoor work. It's on the bleachers. So every day is sunshine. It's a good day for that project. And other than that, that's what's going on so far this school year, one day into.
Going great so far. All right, so questions. Anybody got any questions for Mr. Fletcher? All right, next item on the agenda is discussion items. First item is human capital report. Dr. Green.
We typically have the human capital report and a teacher absenteeism report on your what was e-meetings or something else now. Well, okay, so with the timing of the board meeting and the way the month ended, we weren't able to get that report because we're still entering people in the system. And so in order to get all of the new hires in the system and then draw that report, we've got to get all of them in the system. So our district pays our employees the first pay period. So I have to make sure that everybody that's supposed to be getting paid on Friday is in the system by tomorrow at 12 o'clock. So, I couldn't devote time to getting that, report done because it was gonna be pretty extensive because it will tell everybody that, had left the district in last month and then everybody that we have hired into the district for this month. So as soon as we can get that, get everybody in so that everybody can get paid on Friday, I will get that, report to Janet and then she can get it, to you all. And so it'll show everybody that, left the district in July and then everybody that was hired in the district in July. And so our teachers and our assistants and our secretaries, all of those jobs have a July effective date. So all of those will be on that report. And so, we apologize for not being able to get it, but we wanted to spend, devote our time to getting everybody in the system so that they can get paid rather than trying to get you a, report that is not accurate. So that's what we want to, that's why you don't have the report in the consent agenda at this time.
Dr. Green, the report, would it be in the same format?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dr. Green, off the top of your head, how many new teachers are we talking about, approximately?
I would say, it's over.
And for the benefit of the record, in the last 2 to 3 years, isn't it true that we're hiring about a total of 100 and above teachers per year?
Yes, sir.
And that was prior to this board that just came in.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Green?
And I do want to say this too, our job postings that are up, again, my staff have been working on getting new people in. And so we have some of those postings that are up, those positions have been filled, it's just, we haven't been able to get it cleaned up. So we actually, as of right now, only have 10 teacher openings. All of those positions that I have stated that we have, say for instance, like Liberty has 3 math teachers. I mean, it's high school math. They are covering those positions with, we were looking to get a retired teacher. Some of the teachers are doing 4 blocks, Dr. Meyer, so they are covering those as best as they can with those. So the positions that we have open, they are either being covered by a retired teacher, there is a sub in there, and we're waiting to get someone cleared. So, but those majority, the ones that are at Liberty, they are high school math teachers, and unless somebody just, I don't know, comes from, I don't know where they're gonna come from, but if they're certified in 7 through 12 math, we'll take them. So, you know, I don't know. 7 through 12 math, if you're certified to teach 7 through 12 math, please, get with me, because we want to fill that, but the teachers are, and I want to applaud the admin staff at Liberty for doing such a wonderful job at getting those positions filled, because you know the changeover in staff happened kind of quickly, and they got in there and they interviewed. They worked hard. They did a phenomenal job, and I don't know of any school in this area at this time that has 3 math openings that could fill the 3 math openings. So they filled everything they could fill, and those are the only 3 openings that Liberty has. So I'm very proud of the admin staff there who worked very hard on getting those positions filled. But right now we only have 10 openings, and they are either covered by a substitute, a certified substitute, or we have the retired teachers in there, or someone's waiting until the teacher that has been recommended is actually cleared to come to work.
Dr. Green, may I ask a question? I'm not sure how the policy works, but to fill some of those positions, is it possible, because I know you did say retired teachers, and oftentimes retired teachers don't want to work full-time. Is there something that keeps us from, I'm not sure, hiring 2 retired teachers to fill 1 position, like part-time?
there's not anything, keeping us from doing it. We only have a handful of retired teachers who want to come back and work on a limited basis, which means that if you hear anybody say that 120-day contract, what that means is that a retired teacher can come and draw his or her full salary for 120 days. They can't work over 120 days. But we don't have a lot of Right, and I know that Mr. Barnett has reached out to our retired math teachers who are certified in 612 or either 712, and it's just up to them if they want to do it. But he does have their contact information.
Okay, and they could do that?
They could.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else? Thank you, Dr. Green. Next item, I'm sorry, Dr. Myra.
Yeah, I got just a couple of updates. We want to get in the habit of bringing some things from the academic world to you, so we're always keeping that in consideration. Like Mr. Washington said, it was a fun first day. We were all crisscrossing the county. We actually crossed paths in Andrew Jackson's cafeteria. It was pizza and hot dogs today for lunch on the first day, and beans, so that was fun. Besides our regular campuses starting, we had 23 students that started in the Loop program at Stanley Black & Decker, Delta, and TBDN, and then we'll have an additional 12 more Loop students starting at Old Country Store and Gourmet Your Way later this week. So that'll start us with about 35 students. Again, our goal is to grow that to 50 at some point during this year, which we think we'll get somewhere around Christmas. As we've been mentioning, our plan continues to be focused around three things: improving content, improving our teacher skill, and engaging more students. And on that note, this is a pretty remarkable day because it's the first time that I know of or am aware of where we have updated and aligned curriculum in all four core subject areas: math, English, science, and social studies. That's a tremendous help for our teachers. You can't do much if you're not providing teachers with the resources to teach on a day-to-day basis. So I want to thank the board for your support and budgeting around that, and the commission for continuing to support funding in that area. It's taken us 2 years to get to this point. On the state's calendar, it would take 6. So a lot of people have worked really hard at the central office and in the schools to make sure that's happening. We've also provided quite a bit of training to our teachers recently on their new curriculum. So for example, on one day last week, on August 1st, we had hundreds of teachers at Liberty Tech, and in that single day, over 2,700 hours of training were provided. If you look at the number of hours that teachers actually sat in curriculum-specific training, that's just in math, English, science, and social studies. So again, Ms. Scott, a lot of effort there. And also on that note, Ms. Court led a training where we're beginning to organize some benchmark assessments. So board members in the past have asked, do we have a way of measuring progress throughout the year? So we're actually building that out this year. So 3 times a year, students in 3rd grade through high school will take small versions of the state assessment so we can gauge throughout the year how things are progressing and then intervene as necessary. So we're very excited about the benchmark assessments that are being built. But other than that, we have a lot of momentum heading into the year. Very exciting time to start the school year, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Any questions for Dr. Meyer?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to mention, I think Dr. Meyer mentioned the budgeting process, and I think a lot of asked about academic books, but I think in this budget year, we budgeted, I think, $600,000 for social studies books, right?
Correct.
My high schooler came home with a brand new anatomy and physiology book that she was very excited to write her name in there very first. I saw it right before I came here tonight, so she better be reading it right.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Great job, Jared.
Thank you. next item on the agenda is names for the Code of Ethics Committee. As you all know, Dale had, Mr. Dale Thomas has looked at that policy in our, looked at that policy and advised us that we needed to establish that committee. That committee will be established in September by the next chair of the board. Because we didn't want to establish it and vote for somebody to be on it for 2 months, and then, you know, and everything. But I know that Janet has some names submitted for that. We will be looking at that next month. I can't remember exactly how the policy reads. Are names turned in, or do we vote on the names? So we will vote on that committee. So please, if you have turned a name in or still need to turn a name in, please get that done. But before you turn it in, ask them if they are okay with being on the committee, on the ethics committee, before you do it. Please, all right? Any questions about that?
Of course, I have a question. Mr. Alexander, do we, need to send a bio with those people that we're recommending for that committee, or should we just submit their names to Ms. Janice? How did you wanna?
I mean, it might be nice to just sort of have a little bit of information about them, or if you submit the names, you can probably tell at the next board meeting a little bit about them if you'd like. But I suggest submitting a little bit of bio,
Sure.
so we sort of know who they are and what their background is.
Yeah.
And is there a deadline? That was my next question.
It's gonna start.
Well, I didn't know, like,
September.
so we'll vote on those members next month when we will be electing a new chair of our board next month and a vice chair as well. And, so we will vote on those people.
It may be one of those things where we get the names next September, because depending on how we do this, I know usually whoever is the existing chair has stayed in that seat even after, if a different chair has been nominated, unless we want to change that position, and that chairman or the chairman, the new chairman can do it from wherever they sit. We like that. I mean, suggestions on that, or would it be something that would be established in the October meeting, or the committee would be established in September, and then, or however we want to do it? How do y'all think would be the best way to do that?
We typically just let that chair continue that
Right,
meeting.
right.
That's what we typically done.
So, we'll just see how things go that night, but anyway, it
So
will be,
we
it
will
needs to be
vote-
established next month.
Okay.
And, you know, the members put on it.
Sure, okay. I
So
just-
by the end of this month, I think it'll be.
Okay, Ms. Janet, I guess I should ask, are you saying like August 30th, you wanna have those names, so you can? Okay, perfect, then that'll be, so then.
All right, next item, if nobody has anything else on that, next item is, Jackson Madison County School Board retreat date. We've talked about reconciliation and everything, having a retreat, do that. I suggest we just have a retreat. We usually have that retreat in October. I would like to have it sooner than that, if at all possible, just so we can just have a retreat and just be the 9 of us together and talk about some things and deal with some stuff we probably need to deal with, and ultimately break bread together. But how does everybody else feel about that? Do we want to try to do that in the next 5 to 6 weeks, or do we want to wait till October, or what do we want to do?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I thought you had stated that we would consider it at the last part of August, and, along with the retreat, just to do the reconciliation dinner. And so I think at the end of August would be an appropriate time before we switch over to the first part of September as we move forward, so.
So we would do that on Friday and Saturday at the end of August? Right. So, we want to do a Friday evening and a Saturday like we normally do?
Yes. Okay, so are you saying the 30th and the 31st?
I didn't even look at my calendar today. I don't think I have anything.
Well, the 31st is, that's Labor Day weekend. The 30th and 31st is Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
That's probably not gonna work.
It's not gonna work. What about a Friday and Saturday above that? I don't know what.
Well, some of you are at the TSBA, TETA conference, the 23rd,
What?
that Friday.
If I would start,
Yeah, we can do it on a Saturday.
just do it on a Saturday on the.
And the retreat doesn't have to be a 2-day retreat necessarily, does it? It could be a 1-day retreat along with the reconciliation dinner, so it doesn't have to be a Friday and a Saturday. It could be just on 1 day.
We're looking at August the 24th.
I will be out of town.
Okay. What about the?
May I make a suggestion? And I'm not totally like, I'm not married to this suggestion. I'm just throwing it out there. We had our retreat last year in October, and I think traditionally when the board has had their retreats, it's been after they have elected a new chair.
Yes.
And so, as much as I want the 9 of us to sit around the table and eat supper together and break, as Kevin said, break bread together, I feel like we would be remiss if we did something in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And then in September, I mean, at our next meeting, the next time all 9 of us are together, we are going to be electing a new chair and a new vice chair of this body. That, again, I'm not married to that idea, that's just an idea. And I feel like traditionally, that's kind of when the board has retreated, after a new person has been elected chair, and allowed also the central office staff to kind of get in a groove of the first quarter of school. Cause I know like progress reports don't even go out until like right after Labor Day. And so, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of things that are happening in the buildings, school-wise, between now and then, that I would want all the central office staff to inform us of things at the retreat, just like they did last year. And I want to be able to give them ample time to get the school year off the ground. Again, just an idea, I'm not married to it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. The reconciliation dinner was set apart from the retreat.
Sure, absolutely.
But the chairman thought, you know, maybe it would be a good idea just to combine both together. So, you know, it's not a problem, just depends on how the board would like to proceed with it, you know, whether we wanna have the reconciliation dinner outside of the, retreat. And I think it's a better idea, because I think we need to get together.
Yes, ma'am.
And to resolve issues before the next chair and vice chair
Absolutely.
take their places. And so,
I agree.
if we can do the reconciliation dinner, before the retreat, Mr. Chairman, you know, this is just my suggestion. You know, I think that would be workable, you know, for all here, because there are issues that we need to address, you know, alone, and not to have, the retreat along with it. I think that it would take considerable amount of time, you know, so. I would basically like to say, if we could possibly do the reconciliation dinner before we actually, transition over to the board chair and vice chair, you know, that would be.
Well, that board meeting is my work session board meeting on September 9th. So we have a date that we can.
What about the reconciliation dinner? I know myself and Mr. Campbell have both agreed to host that dinner in our homes, and that offer still stands from me.
I have been asked that we do meet at a neutral site. So,
If I may, if I may, Jackson State Community College has opened up, service for us there, if we need to decide on that, or either there's Union University that we could possibly, use too as well.
That place is still available.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yes, that's
would be-
right.
I think it'd be probably easiest to get. Wayne's place.
My plan.
Wayne's
Yeah,
place.
y'all come on out to Copperhead Hill.
No.
No snakes. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I can agree with Board Member Hamilton. University would be great, because they have a dining hall and a room that we can meet in. I think that would be better.
So give me a date.
How about Thursday, August 22nd? I just pulled it out. I just opened up my calendar.
That's good for me.
August 22nd?
I'll make it work.
Yeah, I think I can say
I gotta reconcile too?
Yes.
Okay. Say so.
Hey, who's the contact person?
We put it in, man.
Who's the contact person?
Contact person.
Who's the contact? She needs the contact.
For the
information.
dining
Who's the
hall?
contact? Do this.
You want me to contact?
No, she can't, no, Janet. I mean, if you wanna contact her and set it up, that's one.
I don't have a problem.
Do you know who to contact? I think that's what Ms. Sanchez was asking. It may be Nikki Castle.
Nikki Castle.
Yeah, it is.
Nikki.
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay, right?
Thank you, Mr.
Mrs.
Beverly.
Lebo, Mrs. Lebo, Mrs. Rachel Lebo, she's gonna set it up, so we're good to go.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, the 22nd at what time?
6? 6 too early?
Mrs. Black and I would like to go ahead and put this on our calendar so we can plan accordingly.
6 too early? On August 22nd?
That is perfect.
Mrs. Rachel Lebo's gonna get this set up with the union. So.
Mr. Chairman, since we separated the reconciliation dinner and the retreat, can we go ahead and set a retreat date for October? Is anyone opposed to that?
Can we just, I haven't looked that far ahead in my calendar.
I will.
Because I haven't looked past this week in my calendar.
It just so happened that my husband and I spent 3 hours last night going through our calendar for the rest of the year, because that's how our life is, so.
I'm hearing it's my anniversary, so.
What'd you say?
Yes, get it right. Sacrifice.
What? My 19th, hey, Mr. Washington, my 19th wedding anniversary was last month, at our board meeting, so I feel good. Just take her
We got
somewhere nice for
champagne
supper.
this one.
As long as it's not the first week in October.
No.
I should be good any week in October, I think.
Well, the second week, the 7th through the 11th is call break.
Except that week.
That's not a good one.
And not anything that's October 27th, because that's my son's birthday.
That's a Sunday.
That's good.
That's a Sunday. So we don't want to go ahead and set a date for our retreat.
I think we should, because,
Thank you,
you
Ms.
know,
Morris. Thank you.
things come up.
Thank
and
you.
Yeah, we should set a date.
The 18th and 19th, or are we just gonna do a Saturday on the 19th?
We're talking about October.
October 18th,
October.
19th?
Hold on, please hold.
Friday, Saturday, or just a Saturday?
I think a Saturday would do.
Like, we could do like 8 to 5.
If it goes
What time? What?
I'm saying 8 to 5 if we do all day Saturday. Now, I'm not saying we have to meet the whole time. I saw that, Mr. Evans. I'm just saying we need to work that time off on our calendar.
October 19th.
Yes.
October 19th is a good
Are we,
day. Everybody?
Wayne's Place.
we meet at Wayne's Place?
Yeah.
At the health department, can we meet that day?
The health department or Copperhead Hill, make up your mind.
I like Copperhead Hill.
Okay.
Okay, I'm writing it in on my calendar.
I guess I should.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So we got that, we're ready to move on. Everybody got their dates and times? All right. Next item is item number 4, under discussion item, which is the K-8 property. I'm gonna turn this over to Mr. Washington and let him introduce our guest.
Yeah, thank you. We've had the guest of architect firm from Olmsted and Winslow with us today, and they're going to introduce themselves and present the information that they've derived over the course of the last month.
Hi, my name is David Stewart. I'm an architect with Orcutt Winslow. And we're an architecture firm focused on education design. And we've been asked to look at 2 sites for the K-8 school. And so we're having an analysis that we'll show on the screens here. And my colleague Alex Reese is going to go through those this analysis for us.
Get the next slide, please. So as Dave mentioned, I'm Alex, also with Orcutt Winslow Architects. Happy to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. We're excited about this project. Clearly, it's obvious the impact that a new K-8 school can have on a community, and we're happy to be a part of that. So step 1 for us was to take a look at the sites that you guys have in consideration right now. So to the north, we have our Passmore Passmore Lane site, just off of the highway bypass. And then just to the southwest of that, we have our Ashport Road site. Next slide, please. So what we are trying to do is take a high-level logistical analysis of the site. And I want to be pretty clear on that. Right now, you're going to see some images of proposed designs and whatnot, and they're not designs. They are just showing kind of logistically things like roads and fields and building footprint sizes and whatnot. But please take into consideration that we have not had the input of the school district yet or anyone like that. So we are just kind of showing things as they need to be, but the typical building blocks for a school. So for the first site, Ashport, first thing we're looking at is utilities.
Can I ask you a question? Do we have a handout?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a handout.
Don't have a handout.
Okay, all right.
So the first thing that we looked at, first thing that we're looking at is utilities. And the Ashport site does have all the main utilities available off the main road at Ashport that can be taken north into the site. So that is readily available. Off-site infrastructure. There potentially could be the need for widening of the streets to accommodate middle turn lane, a street light. Many of you know that corridor is pretty narrow and may need to grow to accommodate traffic of a school. The size, so it's 42 acres, which should be plenty enough for the building. Access, so we have just over 1,000 feet of frontage along Ashport that we can cut into the street for access points onto the site. Visibility, at this point, we're looking at just what's the visibility from the main street to have access, or visibility of the building and the architecture and the fields and all the stuff that's going on the campus. Traffic, as I mentioned, pretty narrow street lanes, so this is one of the drawbacks of this particular site. The cost, as we've heard, and been recommended $798,000. And then there's a small portion just off of the east side, right about here, that has a depression in the site that would have to accommodate through grading to make that suitable for the project. Next slide. So as mentioned before, you're seeing what looks to be a design on the site, but really that's just there to show you the logistics of the site. Fields and roads and drop-off lanes and building footprints. And so what we have shown here is the K-8 school to the south. And although we know that the high school is not part of this part of the project, we do want to show you potentially what the size and the impact of it would be on each of these sites. So that can be taken into consideration further down the line, should that be something that the school district pursues. But as mentioned, the school is located off the Ashport to the site with drop-off lanes and parking adequate for the facility and some sports fields to accommodate that. And as you can see here, it's tight, but everything does fit on the site. And we do have adequate space for the K-8 and potentially a high school of 1,000 students on each. Next slide. So similarly, we went through and looked at the Passmore site. So again, utilities. The utilities are available on site, and some of them are just off the site. So we have utilities off of Passmore Lane, and some of them just adjacent there, and a few of them to the north that would need to be taken across the street or under it. Offsite infrastructure, this is more geared towards high traffic. However, it would be difficult to get, or right now, there's only one cut into the site, so we may potentially need to do another one. Size, it's 60 acres, so this site definitely can accommodate with no issues the program of the K-8 school and potential high school. Access, so 895 feet along Passmore, so a little bit smaller than Ashport. Visibility, a lot more visibility on this site of the school, the fields, and what's going on. Visibility off of Passmore and the highway bypass. Traffic, there are 2 lanes on each side of the median, so plenty of capacity there. Acquisition costs, 1.7. Site grading, there's very little site grading here that would be needed based on our observations with the information that we have present at this time. Next slide. So similarly, we've got the K-8 out tight to the main access point off of Passmore. And then we have the K-8 with its own dedicated fields in this scenario, and then the high school further down, and then the fields to the south. Next slide. So we've gone through and provided a pretty detailed matrix of different items of consideration, but the takeaway of that, next slide, are the main points that we were going through throughout the visit. And so you can see here very clearly just a summary of what we've put together, a comparison between the 2 sites. Next slide. So moving forward, what are the next steps? Well, we would recommend, number 1, a full site survey. This will help us with determining any entitlements or easements on the site, and or encumbrances, everything like that. Number 2, a title report procured for title services that would allow us to see if there are any stipulations on this by the seller. Number 3, geotechnical investigations. We want to see what kind of soils on site and make sure that there aren't any potential issues with that. Number 4, phase 1 environmental study. Number 5, a traffic study to really understand what's going on at the 2 different sites. So our takeaway from this is that the Passmore Lane site would be our recommendation. The reason for that is what's shown through the diagrams. It has a lot more site visibility. It's something that can accommodate future growth of the school district. If the traffic is going to be less of an issue, and a whole host of other issues.
I think this is, as we went through this analysis, we tried to look at it objectively at these 2 sites. And just from our perspective of designing a lot of schools, we try to determine which is a better site that we would normally choose or recommend. And, looking at both of these, if we were just to have these 2 options, we would probably recommend the Passmore site, just because of the scale of the piece of property that's available. Again, it's part of it's just providing you that flexibility in the future to have that future growth opportunity. I think we've seen that area has a lot of potential for growth, and with that kind of a growth also comes the growth that's going to be necessary for your schools. And so those are a few of the things that we looked at for those these 2 sites, we're open to any questions that you have.
Anybody have questions?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask a question about the next steps, the importance of those steps as far as financial impact. If there's, I guess, something unseen that some of those studies would bring out based on what they've already talked to us about as far as pricing and the ability to house the facilities and future growth. those steps are, they've been proposed.
Well, anytime you buy a property, you have to do a phase 1 environmental study. If you do a project like this, we require you to traffic report anyway. Alta survey, which is served to assess all the different access points, like it says, easements and things all around it, what could be encumbered, what could be encumbered. So, that's something that, we have to do a survey. Alta survey is kind of an enhanced survey with a whole lot more bells and whistles. And then they talked about soil tests because some of it had been used for agriculture over the years. We feel like there's not a problem, but they just like to make sure that that soil had been contaminated, because both of them had been used for agriculture. Right, in fact, on the Ashport adjacent to it, right there's a cornfield, and for many years it had been farmed as corn. So that's what that's all about. You just wanna make sure the soil is fine, you're not getting into something that's contaminated, you're not gonna buy something you can't use. And those tests can be taken care of.
I get, and to kind of piggyback on Mr. Johnson's question, I guess my question is, how much are those studies gonna cost us? Because we have already invested.
Well, we're gonna do it, regardless of what we choose, we'll make sure that we gotta do it.
So
On either
my-
property,
my-
on either property, right?
So if we say, let's choose property X over property Y.
Right, I understand.
And we get into property X and we realize the soil here is not gonna allow us to build a school, what are we gonna do with that property?
So what we do is when we do our contract and purchase it, we say contingent upon X, X, and X
Okay.
occurring.
Okay, that's what, I needed that
Passing all those
explained.
tests.
Sure.
Mr. Campbell, you.
Go ahead, Mr. Morris.
No, I don't have.
Go ahead. The concern I've got is that the cost of doing those tests are not that much. I mean, every dollars are precious, but they're not that much. The concern I've got is that the Ashport property option expires September 15th. I somehow thought these tests had already been done.
Yes, I was under that impression
Yeah,
as
we were
well.
doing that due diligence now, so I guess I'm concerned about not only the cost, but how quickly could the test be done? Because if we have to eliminate one,
Yeah,
we're about to lose one option,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Right,
saying.
right. Yeah, I mean, most of these tests could probably be done within 30 to 45 days. You know, it's just a matter of getting them contracted, to come out and do the assessments for the site. So it's a matter of just getting them contracted, them to perform the tests that happen on the site, and then to issue the report to us. So it's probably 30 to
You've not
45.
done topos either, is that right?
Let's see.
Topos.
Right, that'd be part of the survey, the site survey we would get would include the topography, the easements, it would include any utility information. It gets a lot more detailed information, as part of that Alta survey.
Superintendent Washington, can you remind me when the option on the Ashport that we are currently in runs out?
September 15th is when that option runs out. We have a free look until August 15th on the
Yes.
middle property. So worst case, it would go back because it's still for sale. I don't know if any contracts pending on it other than what we have. And then, so we have until September 15th on the current Ashland property.
And I had one more question for y'all. Thank you, first of all. But second of all, I drove out to both of these properties today. And I almost got stuck, in my van on the Ashport property because I
Right.
pulled right up in there. Is there any, cause I stood out on the Passmore property and it seemed like there might have been some, and again, I'm not an engineer and architect, I'm just a mom, okay? But is there any flooding issues out there? There was a lady that spoke to that earlier tonight, about that, and I was just concerned about that.
Part of these, tests will let us know that
Sure.
specifically. You know, when we walked out there, we did the same thing. We've been out to both of these sites and taken a look at them. We didn't see any during our site visits, but, these tests will let us know.
Okay.
Specifically that, you know, we were able to kind of look and just see from, there's GIS information that's publicly available.
Yes.
That we were able to look at just to see what the contours and things like that are doing. So, you know, looking at that, it looks like, you know, again, part of this design that we would provide would include the drainage plan. And so it would probably include retention areas where we would, you know, have that water go to. So that would be part of any design that we come up with, would be to manage any of the moisture or water on that
Okay,
property.
I just was concerned, 'cause
Yeah.
I almost got stuck, so.
just going back and reminding us that that is what happened at Northeast Academy. When we did not take into consideration growth. That's what the previous boards has done, has merged in, not looked at all the options. I remember quite well when the Northeast Academy was created. The solution to all of those problems that we had with the traffic, they started to call it in, and Dr. Huffin decided the best way to do that would be to cut across and make a U-shape out of the football field. And so that Ashport property, we're locking ourselves into that. These gentlemen, we're talking about saving money. This firm has made a choice between the two, continued up on the next steps. And that's assuming we don't listen to them. Then we have lost money because y'all didn't work previous. So I mean, we're wasting a lot of precious time. If it's in order, I like to make a motion if it's in order now.
Actually, we can't vote on this tonight because it's a discussion item and not an actual action item.
Mr. Chairman, I brought the contract on the Ashbrook property, and I do want to note that one thing that is in this contract, or the option to purchase that property, is that all the soil tests, the environmental tests are covered at the expense of the people that own, that it will be provided at no expense.
Thank you, Mrs. Hill, I appreciate that.
Just so you know, the property adjacent to it has already been, sold to build houses on. And I'm assuming the soil test and everything was done for that contractor to agree to purchase it. So originally it was 70 acres, we found out we were interested, he bought 30, and he had an option to build up, going back 2 years, that's all this began. We were looking at 70 acres there, 30 of it had an option on it. He purchased that option when he found out that we were interested. And so that's what brings us to this point.
The whole concept of the neighborhood school.
Also, it's in order that we can suspend those rules. We can suspend the rules.
We can't suspend the rules, that is correct.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think that we have talked about the two properties and we talk about it needs to be built. We just keep moving and not moving the line, so my recommendation would be suspended rules.
Can you hold on just a second?
Yes,
Make
sir.
that motion. Here's my thing. I wanna make sure we make the best decision. I've been a proponent of not the Ashport land since Ashport land came to the table. And I was actually looking back at tweets from our meeting in October, from our board retreat. And, I know it's out there in the media, there's been some concerns about where the Passmore property came from. Dr. Jones actually mentioned that property at our board retreat in October. So that's where the Passmore property came from. That being said, I just wanna make sure we get the right property. And we do it in a way that we're not flailing around, I guess, as we have in the past. I wanna know before we vote on anything, at this process, is this a process that needs to be done on both pieces of property before we choose a property? Or that's my concern. I wanna make sure we get the right piece of property. And that's best for our school system, not only now, but 20 years down the road.
Especially,
Years down the road.
especially if the property owners offer to pay for that testing.
Well, that'll be if we decide we're gonna purchase it and put it on.
Right. But that's my concern, so.
Jim, I think that, steps is important.
Well, I was just
That's
gonna
why I asked the question.
ask Mr. Washington, what do we need to make a decision on a piece of property? I mean, we've got till August 15th on.
If these tests concern you, that's gonna help everybody be clearer in our order of tests. That's your concern. Whether it's all 4 of them, or 5 of them, or just the altar survey, which I think would cover a whole bunch of stuff. So I think that's really what would out. Of course, I want this resolved so we can get past this. There's other things that we need to be working on. But if that helps everyone to get a better feeling and feel better about the decision, I'm willing to incur that expense and ask them to do that right now so they can make a call tomorrow.
But here's the question so if Mr. Merriweather suspends the rules and we vote on a piece of property tonight,
right,
that's not an issue.
Well, what's gonna happen is then I have to go to the county, for funding it, and work through that process with them, and at the same time, do those studies that make everyone come.
Mr. Massey?
Yeah, I just want a new boat built. This community needs it.
Yes.
It's the worst.
And
way.
everybody, I agree.
A rising tide raises all ships, and I think that the best thing to do for equity across the district is to give ourselves some hope, give ourselves a fighting chance for those folks that are leaving our county or going to private school. I don't have any illusion that we're going to bring people back from private school or back from Medina. Great if it happens. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do want to enter the list of people who are getting ready to leave or coming new to town, and right now their list consists of Medina or private schools. Pope doesn't even enter the list just because of appearances. I know there's amazing things going on at Pope inside that building. Amazing things. I had a parent in my office a few weeks ago who had to move to Texas because her husband got transferred. She was in tears. She's a very well off young lady, could send their kid anywhere. She was in tears because she was leaving Pope. And so I was upset by that. But here's what my concern is. I've talked to several county commissioners. I'm not going to speak for the entire commission, but my fear is if we say no to Ashport completely and just wipe it off the map and move forward with Passmore, you go to the commission and ask for the funds and they say no, now where are we? Pope does not happen. Now, to quote one commissioner I talked to, I don't care if we put Pope on top of Black & Decker, we just need a new Pope. And so my question is, how can we do this where we leave ourselves fail safe? Because I think we would all agree we would rather have a Pope than nothing.
Yes.
So I understand, we all have our thoughts on Passmore versus Ashport. I get that.
But the thing is,
I've gotten a lot of feedback from constituents about Ashport versus Passmore. I just want a new Pope building to happen. And I want to hedge our bets to make sure that happens no matter what the outcome is.
And I want to ask another clarifying question, because Chairman Alexander, when you spoke just a moment ago, you said August 15th, that the option is up. Is it?
The free option on the pass.
Free option on Passmore.
Okay.
We didn't have to pay $25,000.
If we wanted to keep an option, or we could go without an option and sell for a couple of years. And just risk it.
Okay.
We don't have to do anything, just risk it, knowing that we have an option on Ashport until September.
Okay, and while I have the floor, I do want to reiterate what Mr. Massey said. I want a Pope. I think the 9 of us can agree that we want a new school built on the northwest corner of this county. We voted on a 10-year plan in October that included the K-8. We have a county commission that is ready and willing to write a check to build us a school.
No, I'm not interrupting you.
No.
Put me on the list next.
Hold on just a second.
But I also have a hard time, before we suspend the rules, I have a hard time making a decision tonight on things that, I couldn't even read that stuff. I couldn't even hardly see the map. And we know I already had a problem with the map earlier in the meeting. So I feel like that we're kind of, I'm speaking for myself personally, and I called Mr. Washington before the meeting because I said, I read in the newspaper that I have to vote on this tonight and I have nothing in front of me. And he said, that is not true. It is a discussion item, not an action item. And I got my Robert's Rules of Order book out again, and I reminded myself that we don't vote on discussion items unless we suspend the rules. I cannot, in good conscience, be a representative of the constituents who elected me and make a decision based on, these guys were great. They've used words, I don't even know what they mean. I need to look at something, and I need to be able to ask some more questions about it. I cannot vote on something tonight. I can't.
Hold on just a second. First of all, Mr. Ruiz and Mr. Stewart, if y'all like to sit down, okay, that's fine. Thank you for the presentation and everything. We appreciate that. We're going to get copies to everybody of this.
Okay, well,
Jan-
well, then I need
email.
to, then I'm going on record right now saying I will not vote on something tonight until I see something and I have all the questions I have answered.
So,
Because I couldn't even, I wanna look at those maps, because even on the Ashport property, in my mind, was too small to put a high school, which a high school is not even part of our 10-year plan. So I have a hard time voting on something saying we're gonna put a high school on some property when that's not even a part of the plan. It's my understanding that we don't even have enough, even if we built a high school out there tomorrow, we've got all these empty seats at Northside, we're about to build a new JCM and a new a new Madison that's gonna free up some folks at Liberty. Do we really need a high school today? I don't think so. I mean, Dr. Meyerf, I'm sure you can give me some numbers. But I have a problem voting on something tonight where I just I can't even say the word I wanna say, because I get beeped out. I halfway looked at the information. I'm not doing my due diligence as a board member.
Mr. Sherman, may I say something? We just said that we wanted to do the next step. And I am in agreement with that. Let's do the next step. We do need to do our due diligence. I agree, Shannon. So, I mean, you don't have to keep badgering us, but we also, you know, when you talk about, you know, when I first got married, I stayed in a one-bedroom apartment. I was young. But my husband and I bought a bigger house because we were planning for the future. I wanted 2 children, I only had 1. But this is what I'm thinking in my mind when we do a new school. And we all agree, that's one thing we agree on, a new poll. I've been saying that even in my campaign, a new poll, reduce the crowdedness. So that's not a problem. We all want a new poll. So let's do our due diligence. Let's let them do the next step. Let's ask the Ashport Road people to, if they could expedite it. And if we need to, if you gentlemen are going to do the other one, if you please, and then let us even, you know, and then we vote, because we do need more information. I say that too, because if we vote on one and it's no good, then where are we?
Mr. Washington.
yeah, so I'll make a copy of the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
You email to everyone tomorrow before we leave. All right, so if you want a copy tonight, it's gonna be emailed to everyone. And if you want a printed copy versus email, I'll print a copy for everybody also. All right, so I'll give it to you. Printed or-
Mr. Chair, if I may, you know, I am in consensus with what Mr. Blacker stated. If we could possibly do the next step and just do a full officer survey and have them to bring us back the results, you know, then move forward after that, I think that would be more feasible.
I'm gonna ask you, gentlemen, to order an altar survey and a soil test on both properties.
And that's great. Yes, please do. I'm getting kind of tired of being the only one that wants to. No, you were before me, but I serve on the Jackson Municipal Planning Commission, and I can tell you this information we got right here tonight, I will have to abstain from that vote. We couldn't have done anything, so we need all of that on both of them. So we would need all this information.
Okay, you're saying we need all that information?
Yeah.
AJ, did you want to say something a long time ago?
I'll just make up something, I'll just say something.
As the parliamentarian, I would like to make a point of order that this body must vote, give Mr. Washington the authority to order these next steps. So we have to vote on that tonight. We have to give him the authority to do that. Am I mistaken?
If Mr. Chairman, please. Mr. Superintendent Washington has the administrative power to do this by himself. He doesn't need our vote to do.
Okay, I just needed somebody to.
He has the administrative power to.
I'll speak to the gentleman after this and make sure we have in line what we're gonna order, get it taken care of, and bring back the results. We have until September 13th on Ashport, and it stands that now, we're just gonna take the risk on Passmore by not paying $25,000 to enter the option agreement after August 15th.
Is that what we wanna do, is take the risk on Passmore?
Mr. Campbell.
You would do that and pay $25,000.
Mr. Campbell had something he wanted to say.
Well, no, you've asked a question, so I do have a couple of questions, a couple of comments, if I think so. Go ahead with that.
Well, that's what I was asking, do we wanna take that chance with Passmore property? And
I
just
mean,
let
there's
it-
not a for sale sign on that property. I went out there today.
There actually is, been there the whole.
It's gone right now.
Mr. Chairman, can we, have a call meeting if we need to?
Unless he took it down. Go ahead.
Should we not, have a call meeting if we need to, after we get additional information, keep missing the deadline and losing the opportunity on this property? This gentleman done an excellent job, bringing this information forward. I think, one of the most important things, mentioned is future wise, what we're doing high school tonight. Sometime, somewhere, we're gonna need this property, and I don't think we should, corner ourselves. Especially I thought they spent the money to get this, important, information, Michelle. I do would like to have a copy of it so we can, disseminate it to Mr. Carter.
So, I'll talk to Mr. Washington and see the next step.
Two thoughts. First of all, I totally agree with the sentiment I heard around here. We just want to use KA down in that area. The Passmore may be a better one, but it is almost $1 million. So the first question I've got is, Ms. Washington, if you had any contact, do you have any sense from the county commission that that's something they would support? I am sensing the fact that they are juggling a lot of financial balls right now.
What happened was how Dr. Jones and I came to Ashport initially. Passmore was always on the table, but we were talking to the county commission about what they could afford, given we're looking at schools. They had other obligations from other departments that they're looking at that were very substantial. So Passmore has always been on the table. Ashport was on the table. We wanted to do a situation like this to make sure which one we're gonna choose. But last year, we kind of got pushed into saying one or the other, okay, just by board of city. So we said Ashport, all right, going for well that Passmore was still out there. That was never a question about that. The same discussion we're having tonight about a high school entered into the discussion with Dr. Jones, okay? He emphatically said, we don't need to look at a high school right now, we just need to look at a K. That's how that came to conclusion on Ashport Road. Some thoughts were that we need a bigger property to build that all at once, and that couldn't happen. We couldn't have the financial strength to do all that at once, okay? We could build a K, whichever location, and that's the line. But that's how we arrived at that 2 years ago, when we were starting to look at property. I took Board Member Johnson all around, every property that might be available. The one that I want that isn't available is Passmore and Old Humboldt on that corner. That's ideal, but it's not available. Okay, so we gotta choose from what's available. And those are the two choices we had.
So excuse me, that was not, the question I was asking.
I mean, I'm just
The
getting my
question-
Yes,
This would be another $1 million.
Another $1 million.
And my question is, have you had any conversation?
I've had brief conversations.
Are they okay with that, or is this a hurdle?
Well, of course not, they're not okay with that. You're asking for more money.
No, okay, so my next point is, we all want a KA. So my next point is, I would like more information on Ashport to see. The recommendation was passed. But is Ashport acceptable? What if the county commission says no? Will Ashport work? And so my question for these guys, two things, if they could. Number one, what a budget on getting both of these sites pad ready, where you're ready to start going up? In other words, you said it passed more than utilities were further away. What's the cost to get those utilities in? Mr. Merriweather has always brought up a concern, and it's a good one on Ashport. Does Ashport have room for traffic, carpool to queue up off of the road and get off the road? Mr. Merriweather's brought that up numerous times, and it's a great deal. What size school have you designed or planned for at Ashport, and what could that grow to? How many square feet have you plotted on your school, on the little map that we saw? And for how many students is that? And what if that expanded to 1,000 to more? Is there room for that? Because my two concerns are, can you get traffic off of Ashport there? And two, is there plenty of room for growth in the KA? And then a ballpark budget on getting either one of those sites pad ready and ready to start building on. Can you guys give us those answers?
Sure. So for the elementary school, we allotted 90 square feet per child with 1,000 students as a capacity. So that gives us 90,000 square feet, and that's what we were showing on the site plan.
Yeah, and the high school we were showing there was just more of, okay, what if down the road something were to be built? What could potentially fit on the site? And so that's where the high school that we were showing on there is really just kind of more of a master plan idea as opposed to not part of this particular project.
Yeah, to be clear, both sites can accommodate the KA in its fields and drop-offs and parking and everything.
And both sites, obviously Passport could, but Ashport could accommodate carpools queuing up, not off of Ashport, not backing up traffic on Ashport. Is that what you're saying? Make it need a turn lane.
Turning lanes would absolutely be required. Okay. But then we would also provide enough drive so that there's a queuing that's not on Ashport. So it would be on site. But yes, I mean, the size of that road is very tight. I mean, there's really no shoulder to speak of. And so, and that was, just looking at it visually, that was one of our biggest concerns. It's just, it is so tight. So definitely turning lanes would be required, but then trying to get that queuing off of that road would be essential.
Additionally, Humboldt is just down a few, maybe 100 feet, and that's got a stop sign only one way. So that, I would foresee having a buildup of traffic.
Okay. So back to my other question on budgets. Do you think there's a significant difference in getting either site pad ready in terms of utilities, in terms of site work, dirt work, moving dirt work? Is there a significant difference in those budgets?
I would say it's probably not significantly different. Each one is going to require some off-site improvements. Okay. Turning lanes, each one could potentially require a traffic signal there. So that would be consistent with both properties. Both properties have utilities nearby. The Passmore, the utilities are a little bit further, but like across the street, as opposed to running right along. So there's gonna be a little bit on the Passmore, a little bit more cost on the utility side. When we look at the grading that would be required to make it pad ready, there's gonna be more grading required on, less on Passmore. Just because on the other site there is an area that is a depressed area. You can see where there are trees there. The area that's not being farmed is a depressed area, so there would be some grading that might have to happen in that area.
You think the site's balanced though?
Yeah, I don't foresee there being a huge cut or fill required for either of those sites, honestly.
Do both sites have sufficient water to support fire protection system?
Yes. Yeah, and yeah.
Mr. Harlan.
Right.
Mr.
Yeah.
Harlan.
So and that is one of the things that we started looking at is all the utility requirements, water, sewer, gas, all those requirements, and we were able to kind of see really what the lines that are running through there. What some of these surveys would tell us is, and we would have to investigate a little more, is what the capacity is. How much is being fed off of those lines right now. That's the information we don't know quite yet.
I had one more question for you guys. guys
Sure.
before you sit back down.
Okay.
You mentioned when you were giving us your presentation that you saw a little bit more potential, future growth at the Passmore property because it really was bigger and there was other currently empty properties around it. This is just a thought that I had, that like, if we purchase the Passmore property, we know right now we're not gonna build a high school on that property. And they showed on the map, I did see that part, where the high school was kind of up at the south end of the property. So if we get in there and we build a K-8 school, and then we think, you know what, we don't need this extra acreage up here on the south end of the property to build a high school, if we don't need it. We could always sell it to somebody, because if that area is a potential growing area, then that's a potential for us in the future to make some money, I guess. Is that, just a thought?
You would need to provide a right of way.
Oh, sure.
You know, to that
Oh, yeah,
area,
yeah.
but yeah.
And also, I had another question too, and maybe, again, this, a lot of this engineering and traffic and whatever is way outside of my expertise. But if we have to put in a turn lane or widen a road, that is not at our expense. Is that correct, Mr. Washington? So
I
the
asked that
city,
2 months ago, yes, we have to pay for that.
okay, so the city's not responsible for that road?
We're expanding that road because of us. So they will maintain it, we would have.
Yeah, we would.
I don't,
Yeah, you would have to widen.
you know what, I'm gonna put that on my list to ask Mayor Conger about tomorrow, because I feel like that's not our responsibility. But
It is.
again, I'm just a mom and I just drive carpool every day, but, you know,
Mr. Chairman, I have no plans on asking that we suspend the rules. I'm sitting here and if I want to make sure that the public really is. I received 2 calls today. That call was that